Hello everyone, thanks for joining us for another edition of Texas Insider TV, brought to you by Carlton Schwab and the Texas Economic Development Corporation. I'm Jim Cardle. Well, believe it or not, 140 days of the Texas legislative session have come and gone as the House and the Senate both adjourned sine die earlier today and are on the way to going home to become citizen legislators. House Republican Caucus Chairman Tan Parker is from HD 63. He's also chairman of the Pensions and Financial Institutions Committee and a member of the Ways and Means Committee, who joined us back in late January to project and prognosticate what might happen. Tax cuts, the state budget, border security, pro-life issues, and more. We're pleased to be able to visit today with House Republican Caucus Chairman Tan Parker from House District 63 up in Flower Mound. Mr. Chairman, appreciate your time immensely, and thank you for coming in here fresh off of sine die.
Jim, it's my honor. Thanks for your time.
As I mentioned in the introduction, we have just adjourned. You are on the run trying to get home to your family, and can't thank you enough for coming in. Let's just jump in, first of all, at a bit of a 30,000-foot level overall, and then we'll get into specifics. A couple years ago, you all had a tremendously successful session, according to analysts and political wags, so to speak. A lot of folks were wondering this year, under a new lieutenant governor, new members in the House, what might be the case at the end of the session for success or failure. Give us, if you can, just as caucus chairman, your overall perspective. How do you think things have gone?
Well, no, thanks for the question, Jim. Look, I think we had a great session. I'm very proud of the good conservative accomplishments that we have. You name it, whatever the category may be, we're very successful. I'd love to talk about those in more detail. But you look at the budget, you look at what we did with tax relief, you look at border security, you look at what we did for fighting for conservative traditional values. I think we had a number of extraordinary victories. So I'm very, very proud of my colleagues and all that we collectively achieved during the session.
We had the pleasure of visiting back in late January, when you were good enough to stop by, just getting things ramped up. At that point of the session, most of the statewide media was essentially focusing on about three things: tax reform, the budget, of course, border security, some other things after that. But let's talk about, just for starters, budget and tax reform. You all are giving billions of dollars in tax cuts. You've changed drastically the franchise margins tax. Talk, if you can, about some of the benefits you see from the tax reform effort.
Yeah. Well, look, tax reform is a huge thing. I mean, at the end of the day, Jim, I recognize it, my colleagues recognize it here in the legislature, that it's not our money, it's the people of Texas's money. And so effectively, that's what we've done. We're really basically providing tax relief to the tune of just about $4 billion. We had a very healthy debate between both chambers and the various committees, Ways and Means in the House, and of course in Finance and the Senate, about what was the right path to go forward. At the end of the day, what we put forth was, I think, an exceptional good plan, and we're basically taking a 25% across the board franchise tax cut, which is terrific for business. At the end of the day, I mean, I continue to want to get rid of the franchise tax completely, but we'll get there in time. But taking 25% out of it was exceptional, I believe, here this session.
And let me interrupt there if I can, because Dennis Bonnen, your cohort there as chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, was good enough to visit with us and essentially announce that it started off at 15% reduction in the franchise tax. You all in the House brought it to 25%. $2.8 billion of the $3.8 billion, I believe, in tax return.
That's exactly right. So it's really a phenomenal package, very meaningful, and will make a big difference, I think, in keeping our Texas economy strong by giving those businesses the ability to take those dollars and invest them in their businesses. So I'm very encouraged by what that will do. And then beyond that, we provided obviously a good bit of individual benefit to homeowners. And so we did that with increasing the homestead exemption by another $10,000. So again, quite extraordinary. It'll provide real benefit, I think, to real Texans that are homeowners. And I think we all should be very proud of that accomplishment. Again, almost $4 billion in resources that are the people's being returned to them, the rightful owner. So I'm very, very pleased.
Congratulations on that homestead exemption. It hadn't been, I believe, since 1997 that had been changed. How about let's shift to the budget? Came in eventually at 2.9 billion. I know you all back and forth with the Senate, you all in the House had surprised some folks with a lower spending amount. There was the debate on capping or not capping. Talk about the state budget, if you can.
No, absolutely. So just for precise numbers, we used about $209 billion was the appropriation level for the biennium. And, if you look at how you score a budget, if you will, from a conservative's perspective,
okay.
First and foremost, we grew this budget less than 2% per year. So less than 2% per year, Jim. We've been conservatives for a long time, fighting for a lot of great causes that are fiscally disciplined. This certainly hits that measure. Then beyond that, we grew less than the rate of population increase and inflation. Also, another exceptional measurement in terms of how we assess whether or not this is conservative or not. And the third category I would tell you is that we were also below the constitutional spending limit. So you think about all those three criteria in the budget that we've passed that still honors our priorities to Texas. We put more money in public education, K through 12, more money into higher education. We put more money, obviously, into border security. We put more money into transportation. We ended the diversions of dollars that historically have not gone to their designated function with regard to transportation funding. Those dollars historically that we collect in gas tax have gone to GR, and we've used them for lots of other purposes. Now, as a result of this budget, for the first time, there is no longer a diversion of gas tax revenue. So very, very positive in terms of the infrastructure investments in Texas to continue to give us what we need to continue to support this extraordinary growth as folks from all across this country and all over the world want to come and live and work and play and do business in Texas.
Well, let's drill into that a little bit. I want to thank again our listeners for tuning in for another edition of Texas Insider Television, brought to you by the Texas Economic Development Corporation. Mr. Chairman, you not only are chairman of the caucus, Republican House Caucus, you're also chairman of the Pensions and Investments Committee, you're on the Ways and Means Committee, but let's talk about transportation in particular. A huge issue is our state's growing fervently. Congestion on taxpayers' minds, as we all know, nothing as bad as sitting in a traffic jam. But you all this session, I believe the figure is by 2020, will have provided an additional $5 billion. A little concern, of course, on toll roads, but with the solutions you've come up with, correct, there's going to be a new day in transportation funding. Talk a little bit more about that, if you can.
Yeah. Well, look, this again is a major issue and a major accomplishment, a major conservative victory, I think, for the legislature. And that is that, the bottom line is that we're going to fund roads. We're, historically, look at our budget. We've been funding really just maintenance and operation and not enough resource specifically for new road creation to support this incredible population that we have and the amazing growth that we have projected. And so what we're doing specifically, last session, of course, what we did, we passed a constitutional, if you will, amendment that went to the voters. The voters adopted it last session, which gave us now a couple of $1 billion additional dollars for funding. And now this session, we come back on the heels of that great success, and we now have passed, if you will, another piece of legislation that will go to the voters again, that will provide billions of dollars in additional support for new roads. So not raising taxes, doing it within our resources, if you will, doing it within the sales tax revenue stream, and also being able to dedicate a portion of the new vehicle sales growth specifically to transportation projects going forward as well. So, just a terrific victory, I think, for us on transportation, that, again, we are honoring our commitments to Texas, that we are putting dollars where they need to be, and doing so in a way that's responsible, that we're good stewards, we're not raising taxes, and we're living within our means, and like I said earlier, providing tax relief. At the same time, we're putting billions of dollars into new road construction. And so I just want to stress, Jim, we want folks now to complete this process by making certain they get out to the polls in November and support this constitutional amendment. It's very, very, very positive and very important that everybody knows that, and that we spread the word, that all 27 million Texans know they need to get to the polls, they need to vote for this constitutional amendment come November.
Especially after it passed, or the similar type initiative, transportation-wise, passed 80% last time, but particular congratulations on ending the diversion. That's been a huge issue for many taxpayers across the state. Let's turn to another issue real quick that's also, frankly, probably number one in every voter's minds. I know you all paid huge amounts of attention to it, and that's border security. There was HB 11, one of the major accomplishments that started in the House. Talk about increasing border security, putting additional state patrol, DPS down on the border and addressing that issue.
Jim, look, this is a critical issue to Texas. At the end of the day, there's nothing more important to me as a lawmaker than the safety and security of all 27 million Texans. My colleagues agree. We passionately fought to get some great legislation done. And I'm very proud to tell you that here, as we adjourn sine die today, that we've appropriated $840 million for border security. It's unprecedented. It really will get us an additional 250 DPS officers on the border, 250. And it also enables us now to pay them not on a 40-hour week, but on a 50-hour week, so we get more productivity out of every one of our DPS troopers on a weekly basis. That's the most effective way to beef up our presence down there because of the time that it takes to train new people. And of course, we're focusing on how we train new folks all the time. But this is a serious issue. Nothing, again, more important than the safety and security of the state. And a comprehensive border solution now exists with the funding it takes to get the job done. So I'm just delighted about this major success and what it means. You know, in my time in the legislature, I've had the privilege of being a corrections chairman in the House, so I understand crime. I understand directly the number of individuals here that are here illegally in Texas and the link to crime. And we're talking about cartel activity. We're talking about human trafficking activity. This is another major theme of the legislature here. The House really focused very aggressively on human trafficking and cracking down on it to end what we really refer to as this modern form of slavery. And so it really goes hand in hand that you talk about providing additional resources to secure the border. At the same time, we go after the cartels. And at the same time, we're tracking down these individuals that would really just put into slavery these young children as young as 11 and 12 and 13 years old. That's the most abhorrent, disgusting thing in the world. And we've got to send a tough message, and we did it. And I'm very proud. And we're going to crack down in new ways we never have with a full comprehensive package, if you will, of legislation that was passed on human trafficking, as well as obviously this incredible new funding for border security. So I think the people of Texas will be very proud. I think they can be assured that we've taken it very seriously and that they and their families will be much safer going forward than they've ever been.
Well, we're going to be respectful of your time. One final question for the chairman of the House Republican Caucus, Tan Parker from House District 63. I'd be remiss, we've got a couple other hot button issues. The pro-life was a big accomplishment area for you all. But let's, if I can ask you one final question, that has to do with another House initiative for concealed handguns and garnered is probably as much media attention as anything. Talk about your open carry efforts. It was something that started on the House, a lot of back and forth. Just one final question. What's your thoughts in that respect?
Well, look, I mean, myself personally, the members of my caucus, the legislature as a whole, we are all very strong on Second Amendment rights and protecting them and strengthening them every time we have the opportunity. This session, we had the opportunity. We passed open carry, which I think is an extraordinary opportunity and for Texas, and I think people will recognize that. And so, really what we're doing, just for clarification, is, folks that have a CHL license, we now enable them to have the ability to open carry. But they've got to have a CHL license first, which means they've got to be 21 years old, right? It means they went through background check. It means they went through training. So it's really, I think, quite exceptional that now Texas is really leading the way and putting in place open carry. We also had another victory with regard to campus carry as well. So this is a very strong session for advancing the cause of Second Amendment rights. And I think Texans that care about that issue will be very pleased with the work we did as a legislative body. And I might also add, you just brought up the topic, that I'm also very proud of what we did on the life front. To me personally, nothing is more important than protecting life from, obviously, from conception to natural death. and we did a whole lot of great things in that area. On the tail end of the spectrum, at the end of life, we passed comprehensive legislation that we've been working on for many, many, many years with regard to end-of-life matters. That was I think, frankly, check on this, Jim, but I think unanimously adopted and supported in the legislature on the House side. So really incredibly powerful that we brought everybody together to find meaningful solutions to end-of-life issues. Then on the front end of the process, we specifically went and put in place, in my mind, the most comprehensive judicial bypass piece of legislation anywhere in the United States. Very powerful, very strong. And then something else we did in this area I'm very proud of is we put in place pro-life legislation dealing specifically with Down syndrome. And so again, another great victory, I think, on the pro-life front. So again, from conception to natural death, the House of Representatives has weighed in. The legislature as a whole has weighed in. We've worked very well together to make certain that we advance not just phenomenally fiscally conservative, good pro-business growth agenda items, but that we also honor our traditional values when we take care of the pro-life cause, addressing end of life, making certain that we took care of Second Amendment. And at the same time, we did something else also spectacular, and that's our pastor protection bill. And I want to give really great praise to members for getting this done as well. It really enables pastors to have the ability to profess their faith and to do so, to follow their closely held religious beliefs without government intervention on what they do. So it's really, I think, quite extraordinary. And again, another great accomplishment of this 84th legislative session that the House of Representatives was so blessed to participate in and to lead the charge in. So very, very delighted.
Well, speaking of things coming, you were with us at the natural beginning again. We appreciate that of the session. Now I'm going to put this discussion here to a natural end as well and let you get on with the family. Chairman Parker, we really appreciate you coming by.
No, Jim, it's my honor. I always enjoy visiting with you anytime. Appreciate all the good work that you all do, and anytime we can talk about these issues in the interim. And what we need to do is we prepare to keep Texas the strongest state in America economically, with regard to being the state that businesses around the world want to come to, and the state that folks recognize that we restore and keep and uphold our traditional values as well. I want to talk about those topics anytime you would give me the opportunity to be on your program. So thank you so very much.
We appreciate that, and we will have you back. That's a promise we'll keep.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
Folks, we appreciate you joining us again for this edition of Texas Insider TV, brought to you by the Texas Economic Development Corporation. Thank you, Chairman Tan Parker with the House Republican Caucus, also Chairman of the House Pension and Investments Committee and a member of the Ways and Means Committee from House District 63 in Flower Mound outside of Dallas, Fort Worth. Remember, you're either an insider or you're not. I'm Jim Cardle. Chairman Parker, thanks a bunch.
Thank you.
We appreciate you joining us.